Hello, 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 everybody. Can you believe Mind's Eye Visual Guitar Methods is home and live? Believe it or not. So I'm just going to hang out here for a second while I give a chance for anybody to catch this notification that we're live and maybe join in. I think to do that, if I want to see anybody, I'm going to have to work on getting my screen up here. I almost forgot where to go. And I want to go to stream now. Is that what I want? Oh. It seems like they've got the old version. Where to add the video tags? Manage is probably under manage. Let's see. Manage. Mine's our visual guitar method live. January 1st. Scheduled. I scheduled one for, that's January 1st, 2019. That's a long time ago. And webcam. Okay, no, we don't want to use that because we're already streaming. Copy and create. Open session. Okay, so of course, since I've done this, everything looks new again. No, it's not made for kids. Yes, it's made for kids. I mean, I suppose it could be made for kids, but I'll probably swear or something, so it's not specifically kids, so connect to streaming software to start preview. See, that's weird. Now I don't know. And you know what else I can't see? Where's my chat? Oh, live chat is right here on the side here. Okay. So, connect to streaming software to start preview. I wonder if... Okay, this is what I'm going to do. I'll check on my phone here to see if I'm actually live. If I'm really live. Or if I'm not. We haven't done this in a while. And... I wonder if I had a Yahoo account. Anyways, I can't be reading emails while I'm live, so that's not what we're doing. We'll shut off Mike the Vegan here. And what will we see? Well, it doesn't show that I'm live. Your channel. It does say that I'm live. Let's see. Live. Oh, there I am. Okay, so that means that here's what I can do there. I can keep my phone up. That way I can see you guys on chat on my phone, and this page can stay down. All right, that works out for me. Connect streaming software. So yeah, no, and no. It's weird. I have normal latency. I should have low latency because I'm on a fiber optic connection, but I don't know. Anyways, so here we are. Hello, everybody. And let me get back to this page so I can see myself. All right. So yeah, we're live. As you know, my last few lessons have been in the van. And while they make for some okay, content, it's not as good as this. I got my graph paper here ready to show you something. So let's do some talking first before we get into anything. Here's I got my oldie but goodie PC Rich cheapo. Okay, so yeah, there's the sound there. Here's some distorted. Oh yeah, it's a pretty easy guitar to play, so haven't broken this one out in a long time. And the action is pretty low. I went through this guitar just a couple years ago and give it my own professional setup, and pretty happy with it. And I never play it. It's got a hardtail, which I don't like, or not a hardtail, but I set the whammy bar down flat on the deck, and also gave it this brass. Replace its flimsy little original, what do you call that thing, block, string block, with a brass one, but I wasn't very impressed with the sound actually. So anyways, so maybe you'll get to see what I'm doing here when I but that's not the actual angle I like when I the angle I'm using when I do my live lessons in the van that show how I see the guitar from the top down. That I think makes a little more sense. But anyways, a question I got recently that I think a lot of people ask is, what exactly is music theory? Especially the people ask this who kind of shy away from music theory, or, you know, are hard and fast about, like, I don't need that, I don't need the music theory for it. I think there's an innate fear that learning the rules will stifle creativity. And I had the same fear, and I found that nothing could be further from the truth. And because of what music theory is, and here's my answer, it's basically, if it's rules that, or if it's not rules because these rules can be broken, then what is it? It's an emotional categorization of sounds. So it's like an emotional subset, an emotional kind of a framework, if you will, that will allow you to get a basic handle on simple emotional conveyance, if you don't mind all the big words there, of music. But I think I can give a like a more simple analogy, and that would be Legos. Have you ever played with Legos as a kid? Remember Legos? I don't have a Lego here to show you, but Legos are blocks that only fit together one way. There's a whole bunch of different kind of pieces that, you know, all serve a purpose, that fit together in certain ways. And so, and they'll all come in like a little box or kit that builds, let's say, a red fire station, right? So, the individual pieces are like the little building blocks of music theory you learn. You know, they kind of, things go together one way. All the intervals, you know, are do this, and all the certain modes do this, and they all fit together this way. And there's a pattern of major and minor chords in the major scale, and all these little pattern-based things that are kind of hard and fast basic rules. It still don't tell you how to make music. Well, it's kind of like if you dump all the Lego blocks out, it's the same thing. Those are all the pieces, and they don't necessarily tell you by themselves how to do anything other than you could just snap them all together and have a jumble of put together Legos that don't resemble anything. So another thing you can do is follow the picture on the box, and that's entertaining. But then you've got this you know, you might wreck it and rebuild it, and then, but it's still just the same old piece. So kind of like when you learn music theory, it's like getting the Lego box and building the picture on the box. You might be able to assemble a basic song, or kind of get together, get how chords go together, so you can kind of hear, you know, the how a song sounds good, or how the blues goes together with a 1, a 4, and a 5. But you find you're kind of feeling like, but I hear all these songs that sound so much more advanced on the radio, and they're breaking the rules of music theory, and it sounds good. Like, what are they doing, and how are they figuring all that out? Well, so that's kind of like you go away from there's no law when you buy the Legos that say you have to assemble this box into the picture we gave you on the cover. You can buy a second box of Legos that build a gray police station and combine them both to make a dinosaur or something, right? Using pieces out of both boxes, and that's where that's kind of how music theory works. You get another. You basically can consider one box of Legos like maybe one key, and then you get another box of Legos. It's another key, and you actually mix those keys together, and nothing says you can't do that. But you might say, you might go to try that, and it just sounds like randomly awful, right? Well, it's kind of like as if you were just, blindly mixing those two boxes together. You're going to have something that maybe resembles a building, but not what the picture on the box says, and something that doesn't look good with a whole bunch of random boxes together. But if you go with purpose and actually have an idea in mind and kind of got it so like, hey, I know if I put all these blocks here and the blocks from this box here, it'll actually make this cool looking airplane, then that's how building music with the basic rules of music theory, but combining things and adding things that aren't part of the standard set of music theory, make good music. So you can combine things. And I think that'll lead into what I show you today about combining music theory bits to create some bigger pieces of music. I'll show you how pieces of how you can borrow chords very specifically, not just randomly, but if you go from a specific place, the chords sound pretty good, and I'm going to show you why that is. So you can kind of get the whole idea of not just someone telling you a basic trick, but you can know for yourself, like, how does the trick even work? Why would it work? And how, once you know those things, you can take that and not just employ some trick, but create something that right out of, your own thinking. So that being said, since I've decided to do that, this video is probably going to be pretty long. That's not my style lately. I like to make videos that are short and to the point, with a specific focus in mind. And though I think this works out pretty good, because this is information I'm going to give you today that is pretty much the advanced, probably the most advanced ideas to date that this graph paper method has exposed for me. And not necessarily something I just want to have revealed in a tiny 10-minute lesson. So I think it'll be good to kind of be buried here in a longer lesson that some people may shy away from. So that being said, I don't think I set myself up properly with a pen, but let's start here. So notice today I've got a little loose piece of graph paper here. I want to show you something here. Let's talk about a word, and that word is parallelogram. No, well, this may have something to do with a parallelogram, but I don't really know. I haven't thought about what a parallelogram is in a long time. But this has to do with another thing. Oh my God, the word escapes me. What is it when an object can flip upside down and still look the same? It's a P word, I think. It's a. I'm gonna have to look at that. Okay, Google. A shape that looks the same. A shape that looks the same when you flip it upside down. No, it's not ambigram. Ugh. Well, there's a word for what I'm about to show you. It's geometric. Sorry, everybody. A geometric shape that looks the same upside down. All right, well, it's insisting that that is ambigram, but that's not the word I remember. This is sort of... kind of like a mirror image, but there's a word when you flip things upside down. All right. Ah, I've got it. Palindromes. This is a palindrome, I believe. I'm going to show you a musical palindrome. Why I'm going to show you that? Because this exists on your guitar. This is information I'm going to show you today. Will cover several things. And it's very basic. It's the root, it's the core of your fretboard setup. Now, I've discussed something similar. There is a core shape to the major scale. That's a little different. That's a completely different idea that also has a geometric setup and a core shape, two core shapes that will get you through the fretboard. But this is different. This is actually all 12 notes and their geometric pattern on the fretboard. And if you were to think about perhaps creating something with a 12-tone row, that is also the possibility here. Now, I'm going to adjust my microphone here because I see it as I do the P's. They are popping into the yellow. So I think that might be a little better. P, 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 P. Yes, that's looking a little bit better. Okay, so here we've got let's say this is your center point right here. So we're going to put R right in the center for root. And let's just do this right now. Let's draw 2 dots on each side of that R. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 total. Now I'm going to draw 4 on that side. And I'm going to draw 4 on this side, on the bottom. See that shape there? And it leaves you with a blank space here and a blank space there. If we turn that upside down, lo and behold, it's the exact same shape. It's a palindrome. Center is still the center. The empty spaces are still in the same spot. 4, 5, and 4. Why does that matter? It makes a pretty big difference. Will cover, as I said, 12-tone row, intervals, and also the ability to mix and match keys and modes and know about how many notes are shared in between a scale with the most simple little diagram here. It's very powerful, and I'm sure I'm being Not very descriptive and not leading on to just like how massively powerful this little idea is. So bear with me if you are getting the gist here. That this is something pretty amazing when we get through with it. So now we see that that's a palindrome. What if we wanted to consider our R here as our center? It's actually going to be our root node. And that's our pivotal point right there. What if I connected some of these lines? What if I told you that there was a connection between these two notes, the root and those two, between the root and those two, and then between these notes and these notes? Kind of a neat little shape. Something you want to remember, this shape right here. I remember this shape because it helps me understand a lot of my guitar. NXU. We could think of that as NXU. And check it out, upside down. It's interestingly the same exact shape. Same exact shape. This angle is still going through the same way. The N, the X, and the U. The N, the X, and the U. Now that's just incidental. It's just something I find fascinating. But let's get to the meat and potatoes of this jazz. So these basically, all these squares, the 4 here, the 5 here, and the 4 here, are all the notes are all 12 notes. And that is the setup on your guitar. From there, it repeats. That little corner links into that corner, and it just keeps on stacking itself like a bunch of Legos all across your fretboard. But that's not the big kicker here. But I guess the first understanding is that this is all 12 notes. Let's find out what are the relationships between these 12 notes. Okay, so what we'll do here is we'll put a root here. And let's talk about intervals first, okay? So intervals, you want to actually have, I don't know if I want to show you this first or if that would make more sense. Let me show you. I guess maybe I'll show you them both at the same time. Okay. So how about the one weird angular line there? Let's consider that is the tritone row. Flat fifth, flat fifth. That is an interesting direction on the guitar. If you go that way, you've got a flat fifth or a flat fifth. It goes root, flat fifth, root, flat fifth, root, flat fifth in that direction. This direction gives you, if you go up, that's why these are connected this way. It's because here is your fifth and your fourth. And you see when it comes to intervals, it goes flat fifth, fifth, sharp fifth, which we'll put in here in a little bit. So, right off the bat, you see the shape there. Let's put it here for reference. Want to know about the note in this one, this one, this one, this one, how they link together. Okay, so here we have on each side of the root, you have on this side you have your flat seventh, on this side you have your flatted 2. I got that wrong. You got your regular 7 and your 2. And you'll see a little bit more why they get paired up the way they do here, but this one, follow along. You'll see what's going on. So you got your 2 and your 2. Your flat 7 and your 7. And here you've got your flat third and third. And here you've got your sharp fifth, which you could consider a flat 6. But because the fifths play with the kind of the fifth is such a strong note that this ends up sounding like an advanced or a stretched out or a pushed forward version of this. It's usually known as the sharp fifth instead of the flatted 6th because it's got more pull toward the 5 than it does toward its neighboring 6th. But If you would consider that a flatted 6, then you would have your 7733, 2266. And looking at the neat geometry there, aside from that anomaly there, and there's always a little anomaly that keeps everybody from seeing these basic patterns. That's why you're going, how the hell did no one ever show me this before? I've never seen this anywhere on YouTube. Because little anomalies keep anyone from finding this stuff out till they get all graphy with guitar. So, there it is. There's your intervals. You might say, wait a minute, that can't be all 12. We have root, flat 2, 2, flat 3, 3, 4, flat 5th, also a repeating flat 5th there. Then our 5, then our sharp 5, 6, flat 7, 7, root. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. 12 notes of the Western musical breakout. So, or Western tonality. So, pretty neat. And you might be wondering, well, where did this little, why do you got these kind of together, especially when they kind of seems more like maybe they're, you can remember that as a full square. I'll show you another thing here. There's a code here, and I'm going to show you in two ways here. First of all, straight across. It's like so easy to once you memorize this that it just whips off the top of my head here now. So 2, 5, 4, 3, 6, 2, 6. Now we go backwards. The 2, just basically everything is a mirror from here, and that is the actual middle note here, which is just crazy. So let's do everything we just did in reverse. 6, 3, 4, 5, 2, and we would be back to the root. So another way to express that is to write it like this. Put the root here, and then I got to get this, let's see, we would have a 2, and a 2, and then a 5, and a 5, and then a 4. If I'm doing this right, it should all work out at the end. And so, yeah, okay. So, and we got the 5, 4, 3, 5, 4, 3, 6, 2, 6. Almost like the circle of fifths. Our, what I just wrote here, our 2, 5, 4, 3, 6, 2, 6, 3, 4, 5, 2 root is expressible like a little circle here. It just keeps repeating in on itself. What the hell is this? Well, we'll talk about scales and maybe making music in a scale. Let's talk about the C major scale. Well, what other scales are closely related? What other scales are far apart from this scale? Once again, C major. Now G major. Sounds somewhat interchangeable, right? Because there's a lot of similar notes and a lot of different notes. Let's play C major again. Let's play C sharp. Not a lot of similarity there. So, not a lot of shared notes. So some scales will share a lot of notes. Some scales will share hardly any notes. And the fact of the matter is, scales that share a lot of notes are the ones that you can borrow the most chords from. And when you find borrowed chords in the music that you like, chances are they've come from two scales that are closely related to the root. And let's take a look at where those are. A scale has 7 notes, right? So what's the most notes we could share? That would be what? 7. If we had 7 notes, we would have the same scale. But if we had 6 notes, we would have a scale that's 1 note off. So this is your code here. This is the fact that there are 2 scales that share 6 notes. there are 3 scales that only share 2 notes. Here's another factoid that from this list that you find out. The most minimum number of shared notes in a major scale is 2. You can find a scale that only shares 1 note. You will always find a scale that shares 2 notes. And you can even visualize this on a keyboard, which I don't have hooked up right now, so I'm not going to reach over and show you that. But so like if you were to play any other scale, you'll see that it always, the scales that use the most black keys still will use 2 white keys, because remember, how many black keys are there? There's 5. So to make a 7-note scale, how many more do you have to add to 5 to get to 7? Oh, jeez. Smoke comes from my head. And then the number 2 arrives, because that's the math. 5 plus 2 equals 7. Oh my gosh, right? So you'll always need 2 notes. No scale is farther than 2 notes away, but that's pretty far. If you were to borrow a scale, chances are that chord is going to sound pretty hard to get to. So thinking about like making a movie score, and you want to kind of change the mood a little bit without really alerting the audience to the changes, you might start borrowing ideas from a scale that's close by. Let's say you want to give your audience somewhat of a jar. You know, they need a new scene comes up and it's pretty different from the scene you were in. You might choose something like that only shares 4 notes or 5 or 4 notes, somewhere between there. And if you want to get a really jarring change, it's going to be something that only shares 3 notes. And if you want to make the most abrupt change possible, you're going to share something that shares 2 notes. And that's a pretty obvious one, because everything shifts up a half step or shifts down a half step. But that one is pretty, that's going to be your farthest one out there, because that's way over on the tritone. And if you've heard the tritone before, you'll go, whoa, I've heard of that tritone before. And look at it, falls right on that middle 2. Pretty cool, right? So let's write that down there. Tritone, flat 5th. Let's mark out our intervals. Root, flat 2, major 2, flat 3rd, major 3rd, 4, 5. That's going to come up. Important. Our sharp 5th, our 6th, our flatted 7th, and our 7th. Check out where your 6s lie, your most closely related scales, and it's all going to make a lot of sense right now. Root 4, 5. Where have you heard root 4, 5 before? Root 4, 5. You hear about this music that's made primarily in root 4, 5. Root. Let's put a root in A. Play a 4. Go back to 1. A 5. Oh man, look how good those sound. The root. Now you know why a root and a 4 and a 5 are so popular in music and sound so good together, because even if you were to change keys into those, you'd barely notice, because those are the most closely related scales and hence the most closely related chords to the root. Whew, pretty cool, right? And of course, in the those are all the major. Those are major chords too. In scale talk, that would be a major chord, a major chord. This would be a minor chord, and a minor chord, and a minor chord, and a diminished chord. It's just some notes you might want to throw together. So, you know, pretty cool. You can see that that works like a. So what you want to do is write this down, though. Now you know this special code there. It's root 2, then 5, 4, 3. Just like you're counting down. And you can see how it's all jumbled and hidden around, so it's not like, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, like anybody could know it. It's got its own little geometric secret code, so it keeps it hidden from the masses, but half step away, it's only sharing 2 notes. Then you got reasonably close. That's a whole step, by the way. Whole steps usually sound good, so it's a nice strong step. Of course, it's got a strong, closely related key. 5, then 4 notes, 3 notes, then 6 notes, then 2 notes, and then it's the same thing over here It'll also share six notes, but six different notes. Not totally different notes. I mean, there's not that many notes, but some will overlap, some won't. Then, of course, you're somewhat far away, but not totally far away. So I'm sure there's a lot of jazz songs that use the key changes into the 3 and 4 range. That's going to be a lot of jazz, borrowed chords in jazz. And 5 and 2 in root. And you've heard that pop songs change keys by going up a whole step. Well, there's the functionality of that. It's a reasonably close change. It's not as close and undetectable as go into a 4 or a 5, but it's got its own uplifting sense that relates to the original chord by sharing 5 notes, by going up a whole step, or even going down a whole step. If you go up a whole step, you're at 5. If you go down a whole step, you're at 5. You can consider that up, consider that down, whatever you want. Okay. Moving on down the road. Let's see if I got anybody who logged in and said hello. We took that away, and I don't know. Is that my YouTube? No one's here. Okay. So what else do we got here today? Today, I'm so happy to be home. It's so great. I travel around the country for this job. If it wouldn't mess up that camera so much, I would point it out the window and show you the van I drive. It's parked right out my window. Outside my window. And I just am stuck driving that thing around for my living, which has been kind of neat. It's a neat job. I'm happy with it. A lot of traveling, a lot of clanking around in a van and seeing the world from 70 miles an hour on the highway, but you get to see some neat places, and it's got its neat things. You can look that up on Rookie Van Expediting, is me talking about and mostly complaining about it on that YouTube channel. So back to this jazz right here. We've got then we've established then, so we've got our tritones, our 4 and our 5, and let's mark it out with this then. Let's put this into one of these. So how does it work? Here we've got our 6. We've got 6 notes. We've only got 2 notes here, 2 notes here in our tritone row. We've got 2 notes outside the root. And this is on your guitar fretboard. So if I chose this note, I say that's my scale. What is that? A sharp. Nice choice. So if that was my scale, I'm going to try to get this in the camera here. Then one step above, that shares 2 notes. That shares 2 notes. Here's my root. Up above, that would share 6 notes. That would share 6 notes. So, and this shares 6 notes. So, that being said, what about? So what about the intervals found over here? Okay, so we have our 5, 4, 3, 2. So see how it goes in that little, the shape I meant? 2, 3, 4, 5. So if you were here and you wanted to basically, borrow something from another key, change keys, and you've got an idea emotionally, you want it to be very abrupt or you don't want it to be very abrupt, now you know where to go. Well, my key down here is going to share 5 notes from this note, so my F sharp would share 5 notes, my B would share 4, the C would share 3, back to my root, the A sharp. Now I'm on A flat, so go above A flat to my, what note is that? D flat or C sharp. So that would share 6 notes. The D sharp, E flat would share 6 notes. Head, the The A would share 2. A tritone. Oh, wow. That's the tritone row right there. And the tritone row, just an incidental side note here, as is above, so below. So you follow that angle, but remember to use that shift up on the B string, shift up, down below. So say we started on the A note, it would be another A, D sharp, A, D sharp, then just go straight below, straight above it. Here's the D sharp, A, D sharp, A, skip for your, we went from there to there to made that jump. It would normally be like that, but we went like that because of the B string shift. Straight above. I don't have a note there, and that's the end of that line. So on this side right here, we have the 2 and 5 again, and then you're wondering, well, wait a minute. Oh yeah, our trail goes this way here. It's a U shape here. That's an N. This is a U, so we've got 2, and the same thing, 2, 3, 4, 5. Isn't that kind of neat? How there's this geometry on your fretboard, and even this geometry, your scale togetherness is your modulation chart. That's what we should call it, a modulation chart, because when you change keys, you're modulating. So where are you modulating to? Are you modulating to a scale that has close notes or far away notes? You can be like a master on the simplest little memorizable code that keep it to yourself, but tell everybody you learned it on Mind's Eye Visual Guitar Methods, and be a master. Now, it leaves out some information. What are the shared notes? If you wanted to be able to tell that to a saxophone player, you might not be able to give them the exact notes until you sat there and figured it out. But you, by position, you would be able to just know. So just made that up, sorry. And was that in the, I don't think that exists. Does that exist in the major scale? I think that was a borrowed chord, because that was major on a C, C major, D major, A major. And like you can see how that would be a song, but that does not fit in a key. Like if that was the 4 and the 5. The A would be a 2, which would be minor. So that would be in the key, and you can see how it sounds the same, but it's kind of predictable and boring, where you get the. Yeah, it's a different vibe, borrowing a chord. Anyways, so yeah, so like for what else was there? So that's basically it. You can see the how this shape. Simply memorize this, and you can know, from your root, you've got 2, 3, 4, 5. 2, 3, 4, 5. Like, you're playing a somewhere and you're like, oh man, I want to create something different here, but I need a chord I think from a different key. Let me go to that. I like the way that sounds when I borrow from four. When a scale that only shares four notes, a nice kind of somewhat tense change, but not totally tense, like something that only shares three or two. But it has an obvious grab to it. Well, you might want a four, and it's going to be wherever. If you're in a key on this that starts on this note, you go there. And that works wherever you are in the key. Let's say you're not focused on the one. You're in a Dorian mode, right? So from Dorian, if let's say this was D Dorian, if I went there, whatever shape, as long as I made this a Dorian scale, it shares four notes. If or for example, so this scale Dorian is going to be starting on the 2, or basically representing. Let's talk in chords because I believe scales are the wrong way to convey modes. They are explainable in scales, but they're not. You're not thinking about music when you think about scales of modes. You're thinking about music when you're talking about chords playing. So if you're playing a 2 chord, the second chord of your scale, which is minor, then switch over here and made this the second chord of that scale, which was minor. That would also be the same thing. It would share four notes as long as you keep the tonality the same, Dorian to Dorian. If you moved if this was Phrygian and you moved a Phrygian scale there, that you would share three notes of that Phrygian scale, and vice versa. If you change modes, then you're changing that this does not hold true if you went from Dorian and then you made that Mixolydian. Well, you're in a different part of a scale. So let's even think about how that would work. So we're going from Dorian, let's write down here, Dorian to Mixolydian. Okay, so Dorian is the 2 of this scale. So let's say, for example, let's give it a name. So let's say we were in D Dorian. So then this would be our 1 actually would be C Ionian. Now let's say with this Mixolydian, we were in A Mixolydian. So what would that be? Mixolydian. We go down to Lydian, Phrygian, Dorian, Ionian. So we would be down from A. We would be down G, F sharp, E, and then D. D, E, F sharp, G, A. So we would be actually technically going from the key of C to the key of D, and that would be C to D are that far apart. What do you get when you jump from a key there to a key there? We already know that. That is a 5. Oops, I'm off screen there. Going a whole step, you're going to share 5 notes. So D Dorian CD, that's the 1 and the 2, Ionian, Dorian. There's our numbers. So there's the name of our scales that falls on the 1 and the 2, which today we chose D for Dorian, so C and D. So C, we analyze it by our parent, going to our parent key, since it was kind of, skewed behind a mode here. So if we were in A Mixolydian, 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. So 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. We boil that down to the key of D. So key of C and key of D. Key of C, C and D are only that far apart. So that's root 2, 5. 5 notes apart. Bam. And that was a key of G. And so for this lesson, I think I'm going to cut it off here and leave you guys with that. I think it's a long enough time for me to have been rambling about nothing anybody cares about, right? with that being said, I think I'm going to try to concoct something else here because I'm going to have to fly out of here on a moment's notice as soon as they tell me I've got a load. Probably today. I think I'm safely done, or I can come up with some lessons later. I'm going to go live again today. So if you're just catching this now, check, stay on YouTube and look out for me. I'll probably be going live here every once in a while in the next few hours because aside from having to get some night sleep, I'm going to only be home for a limited time here. So as soon as I get a load, we fly out and go pick up something, probably in Canada, and go deliver it somewhere in the United States. My last load, I was home in Rochester last week. I wasn't able to do this. I went from Tillsonburg, Ontario, which is near Woodstock. I actually went from Woodstock, Ontario to Dallas, Texas. Nice 24-hour drive, but it was 1,300 miles, which paid pretty good. So, that being said, you probably thought, hey, you were here last week. Why didn't you go live then? And I'll tell you why. I'll tell you something interesting that happened to me in my apartment here. Hello, everybody. Just trying to get you guys in focus. My squirrel got into my apartment while I was away for 3 months driving and wreaked havoc everywhere. Apparently, I had a I don't know how it would have known, but it got into somehow it got into the house. It probably always had access in here. Nobody knew it. And then, like, into the ceiling and stuff like that. And probably was able to tell after a while that there was no one in the apartment. So probably got wise to start digging in here. So it dug in through the ceiling tiles in my bathroom. Basically, probably rappelled down my shower curtain. Got in and tore into a bag of flax seeds that I just had. I had chia seeds, flax seeds, nice $10 bag, all ripped open, torn apart. Apparently, it was just a mess everywhere. And he got into where, you keep plastic bags by your fridge. He tore into all those, threw dishes and plastic silverware everywhere. And so the apartment was in chaos. And I didn't even know until my landlords needed to get in and do some work on the boilers. And just before I got home to find out for myself, they let me know and cleaned up a little bit, which was really nice of them to do. And now we've fixed it up and sealed off the rooms, and we're not hearing it anymore. So I think we're safe. But we had some chaos. My computer room had been, luckily the damage wasn't any worse. He didn't chew into any computer stuff, but he ripped all the keys off my keyboard. He was trying to send an email to Squirrel Airbnb, maybe leave a review or something, and knocked a whole bunch of things off the computer desk and did screw up some things, but I was able to get it all back in order, and here I am. And the next hindrance is that all my guitar stuff, I've brought my guitar stuff with me on the road, so I broke up my pedal board and stuff is in my truck now, so some of the things that the way that I connected in is changed up, so I just got lucky. I had enough equipment in here to be able to get a mic patched in and my guitar effects and get it in stereo, but as you can see, I don't have my keyboard hooked up, and I could probably get that hooked up, I think, but I'm not sure. Anyways, I'm not going to worry about that now. We're going to sign off here today and give you guys a thank you for watching. Leave any questions or comments about the video. Those will only propel the channel forward if you guys will just communicate with me and say, hey, man, you don't have to tell me you like the channel or something, whatever. That's always nice to hear. But say, hey, what about this? I have this question. What about this? I have no idea about that, and maybe I can help you out. And so, let me know. I will talk to you guys later. Be super nice if you have hit those buttons you're supposed to hit, like, subscribe, all that stuff, and tell your friends. And, we'll go from there. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll probably be back on in, I don't know, maybe an hour, 2 hours. So see you then. Oh, wrong button. So stop streaming. I'm about